Hey everyone, my name's Dredge, and today I'm going to be ranking all 29 killers based on their general strength and abilities. I'll be judging them basically on how I think they would fare against fighting an average person. I'm not going to be counting the entity's influence over their abilities once they were taken into the realm, otherwise this list would look a lot different and weirder. A lot of killers on this list have supernatural powers that seem to be their only source of strength, so I'm going to try and include their physical strength as well as how their powers make them stronger. I'll also slightly take into account their mental process that might impact the way they go about killing. Let's get into it. In number 29 we have the Legion. The Legion is at the bottom of this list simply because the members at the end of the day are just completely normal people. I'm aware that in the entity's realm they're given almost a sort of power, but before they were taken, they were basically just edgy teens with knives. The only thing that makes them more powerful than the average person, I believe, is just their mental state. The average person is well capable of doing what the Legion have done, but it all just comes down to whether you're insane or not like these guys. Frank and Julie in particular seem to be psychotic in a way. They enjoy killing as well as learning about other serial killers, which is really disturbing. If we were being very particular, Joey and Susie of the Legion would be the weakest killers in the game in my opinion, as they don't really seem as killing into the others, they just kinda seem like they're forced into it. To finish this one off, pretty much every, if not all, DBD survivors could put up a fight against the Legion, if not overpower them greatly. I'm looking at you, Chris Redfield. Come on. In number 28, we have Amanda Young. Whilst being relatively skilled in her killing, most of her machinery comes down to all of John Kramer's work. Amanda just has that intention of rigging them to 100% kill people. But like the Legion, she's basically just a normal person. She's higher up as she has a bit of experience being stealthy and strategizing her kidnapping and killing. But John Kramer seems to be cleaning up all the mistakes throughout the Saw films, showing she's very sloppy with her work at times. This is not to say she's incapable of doing a lot of damage to people though. In number 27 we have the Dredge. This one is a quite hard one to accurately gauge the strength of. The Dredge is a bit like Pyramid Head in a way, not nearly as strong though. He's a manifestation of guilt and suffering. His attacks seem to just be a bunch of limbs, I guess? He has quite a big fear factor to him, which definitely puts him a little higher. As for any mental process, I don't really think there's anything there. It's almost just like a big glob of bad thoughts. I don't even know if I can call it a he, like, what is this? Outside of the people it's tormented, I don't really see it being an incredibly effective weapon to those who don't really know him. Because at the end of the day, he just seems like a bunch of sharp limbs to me. In number 26 we have the Trickster. Trickster's case is a bit like the Legion. His mental factor is the main driving reason for his killing sprees. Trickster does seem to be a pretty tall and relatively buff person however. He is also seen to be very skilled with his knives. I just feel like if he was put in a room for, let's say, Jill Valentine outside of the realm, I don't really think he would have much going for him other than his bat and his psychotic and unstable nature. The Trickster isn't necessarily a strong and strategic killer like some of the others on this list. He's just a case of being extremely messed up, and he doesn't stop. In number 25 we have the Twins. This one is before Charlotte was taken by the entity, so that means Victor was killed relatively early on in her lore. So I'm just going to be focusing on Charlotte for this one. Although what I can say about Victor is that he's a killing machine that also ends up getting himself killed a lot. Charlotte seems to be very adept to survival. In her lore we see her killing many people trying to hunt her. And she does it in really unexpectedly brutal ways. I don't think Charlotte's a case of being psychotic, I think she's just killing out of need for surviving. She does seem to have a lot of fighting knowledge and does seem to be quite physically capable, so she's higher than the previous one. In number 24 we have the Plague. The Plague is a bit of a weird one, I didn't really know where to put her. Her sensor doesn't seem to be all that powerful and her physical strength does seem somewhat powerful, although I don't really see her being that hands-on with attacks. Where she does shine through though, I think is her use of infecting others and using her Plague. It does seem to be very damaging and intimidating, especially in the game, but she does fall short with her physical attacks I think, that's where her main weakness lies. She doesn't seem to be a killer in her lore either, so her mental state is not even near some of the others on this list, although her unique abilities do put her up quite a bit. In number 23 we have the Ghostface. The reason he's so high up is due to his sheer intelligence. Ghostface seems to be like Michael Myers and Wesker in a way. He stalks his victims and then plans for every eventuality of his killings. He manages to go town to town on a murdering spree without being caught even once. He even writes about his own killings in the local paper. This shows how he's extremely smart, no average person can do what he does. He also does seem to be very agile and quick in the realm, especially seen with his running and his use of his knife in the lobby idle animations. At number 22 we have the Deathslinger. The Deathslinger I don't really think is exactly psychotic. He's just very fixated on revenge and justice. He's a bounty hunter who invents clever ways to capture his targets, with his most well known being the spear gun. I hope every bounty he was going after was wanted dead or alive, because no one is surviving that thing. He also does seem to be very tall and menacing, although we don't really see him being too hands-on with his killing, which is why he's relatively low on this list. Also, he has an injured leg. I think he would put up quite a good fight though. In number 21 we have the Clown. The Clown is another case of being extremely messed up mentally. He's shown to be quite strong in his lore, but not exactly to a supernatural degree. He's very large in stature and quite intimidating to look at. He also does seem to be very hands-on and incredibly violent in his killings. This is especially seen in his mori and just general in lore, which I don't think I'll get into because But he also does seem to be intelligent to a certain degree, with his assortment of bottles that buff him and nerf his enemies. He seemed to be very sloppy in his killings however, with a person even escaping him at the end of his lore. In number 20 we have the Hag. At first glance, Hag does seem very fragile and not at all menacing, but her mori and lore say otherwise. She's shown to be incredibly agile and animalistic. Her use of hex totems I believe is where she gets majority of her physical strength from. She does seem to be very corrupted by the end of her lore, changing into a shell of her former self. She does display quite physical strong qualities, and while it may not look like it, I think she's capable of doing a lot of damage. In number 19 we have Bubba, or Leatherface, from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Bubba's physical strength does display, controversially, slightly superhuman qualities. His intelligence I think is where his downsides and a few upsides come in. The downsides are he's not as intelligent as some of the other killers on this list. In fact, he is nowhere near. He's seen to be almost scared at some points in the film and get really upset when he kills someone, and not exactly as meticulous in his planning as someone like Ghostface or Albert Wesker. The upside is that Bubba will probably kill anything that comes into his territory, or he thinks might hurt his family. He doesn't seem to have the same moralities of some of the other killers, who occasionally show mercy. He does seem to know the difference between right or wrong, but because of his family, he just doesn't really seem to care all that much when he's in a chase. Number 18 we have the Doctor. Doctor does seem to be quite physically intimidating, although it doesn't really seem like he's supernaturally strong. His use of shock therapy and his unstable and psychotic nature, combined with his intelligence, put him quite high on this list. He's able to affect people in very unique ways, causing them to gradually go insane and damaging them mentally. Not too much to say about Doctor, he's quite average in his strength I think, but he really does shine in his unique methods of torturing and eventually killing. In number 17 we have the Wraith. The Wraith does seem to be decently strong, although it does look like he skips leg day. Like, look at that! It does look like he has a lot of supernatural qualities to him as well, like being able to turn invisible on command. I believe this comes with some strength and speed as well. During his lore, he is mostly a normal person, however he seems to be driven to insanity by his boss at Azarov's Automotives. We see his weapon is his boss's spine, showing how mentally unstable he's become. I think the Wraith is generally quite powerful, a bit underrated. In number 15 we have the Nurse. The Nurse is also a bit of a weird one to rank, it's kinda like the Artist. The Nurse seems to have a very unstable and psychotic personality. She was driven to insanity whilst working as a nurse. Well, that's kinda obvious. Her skill set is very clearly shown to be capable of easily killing people. The fact that she can blink through the fabric of something rather is also quite crazy. The reason she's relatively low considering her power is that she looks so exhausted and she screams after every attack. And she just always looks like she's on the brink of death, all the time. In number 14 we have the Onryō. This is another tough one to try and rank as Sadako's ability primarily revolves around cursing people and using psychic powers, and it's often hard to judge how strong those psychic powers are. Their capabilities are often not shown to their fullest, especially in some of the Ringo movies I've seen. The Onryō's psychic powers are undeniably very strong, where they're able to break people's limbs and break walls with just a tilt of her neck. She's also a very vengefully motivated person who haunts and curses people in very unique ways. That could only be topped by someone like Freddy. In number 13 we have the Spirit. The main reason she's so high up is because of her use of the spirit realm, as well as a rageful nature and very supernatural weaponry. I just feel like against the average person, they would have no idea of anything they could do to counter her. Not much to say about this one. Spirit is pretty strong and her story is really sad. In number 12 we have the Hillbilly. Hillbilly, despite having a tragic reasoning for killing, it does seem like he really isn't merciful whatsoever. He's shown to hunt down many trained policemen as well as his parents. He's also mentioned to have supernatural speed and resistance, making him a very efficient killing machine. He also does seem to have some intelligence intact, with his knowledge of using his chainsaw and such. although he has been locked in a cage for all his life pretty much. Although he doesn't really seem like he has many morals due to his tragic upbringing. In number 11 we have the Blight. The Blight is, or was, a quite intelligent man. However, with his use of the Blighted Serum, he is an absolute monster, gaining very obviously superhuman abilities like his speed and strength. He is incredibly unstable due to the serum, which I think is where he both shines and falls short. His unstableness makes him very hard to counter with his unrelenting and unexpected attacks, but also very susceptible to losing his abilities or accidentally causing something to go genetically awry. He has also seemed to completely lost his mental stability, making him probably not care if he kills anyone anymore. In number 10 we have the Trapper. The Trapper is shown to be incredibly resistant to pain, especially in the realm, as well as having very strong physical qualities, especially shown by his brutal strength perk. He seems to have strength on a similar level to Jason Voorhees. I think that's what he's based on as well. He is also one of the few killers to fight back against the entity. I know we aren't really counting their time in the realm, but I thought this was well worth mentioning. In number 9 we have the Cenobite. Pinhead doesn't really seem to show many hands-on physical strength in the film, and we usually see the Chatterer holding people down in the movies. His chains do seem to be exerted with a very high level of force, however. Assuming that he controls the chains using his own physical or psychic energy, we can see he's very strong. He is obviously very resistant to pain as well. Like, look at his outfit, and he has literal pins driving through his head at all times. Need I say more? He's obviously a very powerful being. I mean, he can send people to other dimensions sometimes. But I think he's a bit limited by the fact that he's not your typical slasher villain, like he probably won't touch anybody. In number 8 we have the Huntress. This might surprise a few, but the Huntress is shown to be incredibly skilled and strong in taking down large quantities of soldiers. Her strength seems to be at a supernatural degree. She is also very mentally deranged, killing people unrelentingly with no mercy. Where she does fall short, I think, is the fact that she seems to be also damaged, and most likely eventually killed, meaning she's not immortal. I mainly gather that from this cosmetic here, where she seems to be on fire, I think. She is shown to have some humanity intact, as she takes children into her home with the intention of keeping them safe. However, she accidentally starves all of them to death. Although it's not her intention, she is indirectly killing children, which is pretty inexcusable. In number 7 we have the Demogorgon. The Demogorgon simply seems to be a killing machine. Demogorgons are incredibly strong and agile, and they are controlled by the Mind Flayer, who is very similar to their entity, and the main reason why the Demogorgon is so high up, because he's like an extension of the Mind Flayer. Demogorgons are very resistant to pain. They don't seem to be killable by any human means, like firearms, knives, guns, etc. The Demogorgon is basically an animal. They are shown to sometimes act like dogs in a way throughout the show, with Dustin even taming one, which in turn makes the Demogorgon just leave them alone when they found him again. However, he ate Dustin's cat. Come on, man. In number 6 we have the Nightmare, or Freddy Krueger. Freddy's an interesting one. The reason he's so high up is the fact that he only really exists in people's dreams, buffing his power by a large margin. Freddy is an unrelenting and cruel person. He's said that over time he's a sociopath and then a psychopath. His whole purpose for existence seems to be just to torture and kill people who we believed had wronged him. Although in the 2010 remake he seems to just kill the kids at the school he worked at for just the sake of killing them, I guess. It's not a very good movie. Where Freddy falls, I think, is his number of weaknesses. Especially in the old films, we see him die in like a ton of ways. Quinty and Nancy are prime examples of how Freddy can be dealt with in the 2010 remake, of course, because we didn't get Robert Englund Freddy. At the end of the day, he's just a man with a knife glove for a hand, but he's also a dream demon. In our number 5 spot, we have the Nemesis. First of all, just look at him. The Nemesis is a bioweapon who just seems like a killing machine. He does have a decent level of intelligence, although not crazy. He's able to set up traps and occasionally speak. Well, he only says stars. He's programmed to kill all stars members, and kill anybody that gets in the way as well. Meaning, nobody's safe. He isn't going to show any mercy, he has no emotions. His physical strength is also shown to be incredibly devastating. That combined with his tentacle ability and the infection aspect make him an absolute unit, forced to be reckoned with. For number 4 we have Albert Wesker. This may be surprising for some, but I really think this guy is powerful. Unless you're Chris Redfield and you can punch boulders, I don't think there's many things you can do to counter this guy. It's clear that Wesker doesn't give a damn about anybody but himself.
You will give me an egg!
He is shown to be incredibly intelligent, hence the name in Dead by Daylight, the Mastermind. His combat ability is also quite remarkable. He's able to dodge bullets with ease, as well as run at very unnaturally fast speeds. He really does almost make the perfect killer. He doesn't care about anyone else. He's incredibly intelligent, he has very menacing physical qualities. What more can I say? I think he's really powerful. In number 3 we have the Shape, or the infamous Michael Myers. Myers is up here for a number of reasons. One is that he is seemingly immortal. He's shown to age like a normal human in the Halloween movies, however that doesn't change the fact that he can scrape off basically any injury. He also runs away after falling off a roof. That's clearly not normal. His strength is also incredible. He's able to lift an adult human with one hand with ease. He also has a certain degree of intelligence, but he's no Albert Wesker or anything. If he wants to kill you, there's really nothing you can do to change his mind. He can't be reasoned with. He doesn't exactly have any seeable morals. He's incredibly unrelenting, waiting over 40 years in a mental asylum just to go back to Haddonfield to kill Laurie and whoever else he feels like. Needless to say, this guy is no ordinary person. He is well and truly evil. In number 2 we have the Oni. The Oni is an interesting one, as he's based off Onis from folklore of course. They are said to be immortal beings with very supernatural and devastating abilities. He has killed an unimaginable amount of people in his lore. It is quite interesting how much humanity is intact with Oni. He cares for his son and for his general family. This doesn't mean he's an entirely hellbent to devote his life on killing though. He's incredibly strong and incredibly unrelenting when in combat. All his qualities just display an extremely powerful being. And finally, for our number 1 spot, we have Gerald. We have the Executioner. Pyramid Head is well known to have physically superhuman strength. Like Myers, he can easily lift people up into the air. He also carries around a massive metal knife. He also lifts it up with ease when worrying a survivor. Combined with his physical strength, he's also seemingly an immortal being. He's a manifestation of James Sunderland's guild. Clearly, James had a lot on his plate because look at this guy. He's so powerful that people even think the entity is scared of him or respects him. It's also another theory that his whole purpose in the realm is to punish the entity itself, which is honestly quite plausible to me. And that'll do it for this one. Let me know your opinions in the comments, and let me know what videos you want to see next. This was a really long one, but I had fun making it, so it was worth it. Cheers for watching, have a good day everybody.